There's some obvious things happening on the planet, man. Humans are really good at demonizing the future. I think exponential technologies is the way to do that. And I think it's going to change everything. I think what it's going to do is...
If you could tell a 20-year-old or give a 20-year-old a piece of advice of what the next best, skill set to pursue would be, what would it be?
Well, it's obvious, right? There's some obvious things happening on the planet, man. Every corner you turn, you see it, right? So I'm talking about exponential technologies. But before I get to that, people think, people are scared to lose jobs, right? Historically, what history tells us is when innovation happens, like in the manufacturing sector, right? When that occurred, in the steel industry, when that occurred, agriculture was another one. There's all these different markets that come into play. One thing that I learned from reading some of those historical times is that humans are really good at demonizing the future. And they love it, man. When was the last time, maybe you heard your parents say, "Oh, I'm never going to get an iPhone. That's never going to happen. That's never, it's just, they did it with the television. They did it with the radio's fine. I don't need a television. They demonize the future. I think that's becoming less and less and less. So with your generation, you're growing up in it, right? It's like, I'm a kid of the 90s, right? So I grew up with the internet when that was launching. So I adopted that very, very well. Save my parents or people that were older than me just didn't grab it. So that's one thing to consider. But I think exponential technologies is moving at such a rapid rate. People will do two things. They'll demonize it because they don't understand it, so that's fair. Or they'll embrace it. There is a middle group that will sort of be in it and out it. I call them dabblers. They'll know enough just to get by, but they won't commit themselves to it. I think if you're an entrepreneur or a young person trying to scale anything in terms of a commercial venture, I think exponential technologies is the way to do that, and I think it's going to change everything. So if I was young, you don't need to code, right? I think you don't need to be a Python coder to build a business using AI. In actual fact, I think artificial intelligence will do all the coding for us. That's where coders will be out of a job. But there'll be lots of people that will lose their roles and their jobs, and they'll have to retool. That's one thing. I don't think it's going to be as bad as people think. I think what it's going to do is inflate employment opportunities, not decrease them or deflate them. I think that's what will happen. That's proven to be the case time and time again, by the way, if you look at the history books, right? If you go back in time. I'd go all in on exponential technologies, and it's not just AI, right? So you have to look at the markets around that, like this whole providing resources to companies like NVIDIA to build computer chips and CPU processors to fuel the next generation of artificial intelligence or technologies is a place that you can play in, right? So if you look at the core technology around that, there's 6 to 10 technologies on average that component of technology, exponential technology, will require to be successful. It'll require training. That's one, right? Like you have to train great amounts of people in how to structure AI and build it. It's going to require some sort of governance. Someone's got to figure that one out. I think cryptocurrencies will be a big part of that, because I think you need to be able to transact currencies globally in an instant. Split it up, move it around, ship it here, and it's got to happen immediately. At the moment, because of the way that the currency structure on the planet works, is you can't do that. Like you can't transfer funds to China and have them within 60 seconds. Like that just will not happen. You couldn't do it in Germany, the United States, or anywhere on the planet, right? So I think there's an opportunity in that space, and it may not be blockchain. I think it could be something else. But there's trading futures, there's commodities, there's all these elements of currencies, stocks as well, and I think they're all going to merge. And I don't know whether it will be crypto. Like blockchain's a commodity, it's not a cryptocurrency. But Ethereum is a cryptocurrency that operates off the blockchain, right? But how can they exponentially grow AI with the right computational power, processing speed, and power, electricity, to mine the currencies to support the growth that AI will deliver? Whew. But that's true, right? If you look at it, if you look at it, that's what's going to happen. And then there's materials, right? Like how do you build the chips, the boards? You know, like NVIDIA just released that board. I think it's like $23 billion just to build that super board, right? For a server. Like they have to get that price down. So what people will do is go, okay, if we can get that board down to $500 or $1,000, that means they need to find new commodities and materials in the market to be able to do that. So now, you know, I think perovskite's a new material that's currently being mined, where they can use it for solar power technology, battery technology. Because lithium will not carry them into the future. Because the access to lithium is very, very difficult. It's still quite expensive. There's different varying degrees of quality. Perovskite, I think, may change the game on that. So there's all these things happening. Like that's a very long answer to a very short question, but what I'm saying is it's more complex than you think. And kids will probably go deep on, I'll use AI to do advertising. Great, you should do that. It can do your Instagram and your TikToks and your automated videos and all that sort of stuff. But it's so much bigger than that. Like that's the surface level stuff. The real opportunities and what's going to fuel the growth of it, I think that's where the future is. And for me, it's a little bit too late, right? But because I'm the 90s internet guy, I'm not the 21st century 2023 AI guy, but I'm learning as much as I can to take advantage of it. Yeah.
How would you describe your leadership style?
Awesome. No. Yeah. Well, it's changed over the years, right? I used to be quite assertive and aggressive leader, but I think you have to be in certain environments, and I think you've got to be more empathetic in certain environments, dependent on the age of the team, right? And the style of the team, the culture of the team, the product, the service that's been delivered, all that sort of stuff, right? So if we were building military weapons, right, and I had a bunch of military soldiers working for me, I have to be a leader for them, particular style of leader. If I was working and building, you know, plush toys, bunny rabbits for Easter promotions in a factory, and they were all 25-year-old Filipino women, I need to be a different style of leader. So that I know, right? Like I think leaders need to understand that you can't be the same leader in two different environments. There's a weird sample, so I don't know why I said that. But anyway, I'll move on. But so I know how to do that, right? I think that's an important skill set. But who am I as a leader now is I think I'm focusing on empathy, you know that. I've been talking about that for a while. And I think I've gone from 1 on the empathy scale to 5.
How long do you think that took you to slowly...
8 months it's taken me to get from 1 to 5. And I might not even be at 5. I might be pushing it. I might be at a 4. But I think empathy is important because of Generation X. And the generation before you, actually, both generations require it in leadership. So if I manage those 2 generations, X and Y, is it Y? Yeah, X and Y. If I manage those 2 generations with my leadership skill that I have for the military soldiers, well, you know, it would be pretty disastrous, you know, because they'd all be crying, running out of the office, saying that I'm evil and they wish I was dead. But then the A-type guys and the military soldiers were saying, we love that guy. He's the best leader we've ever had. See the difference? So when you ask a question like that, I think, well, man, dude, you really got to wrap that up in context. So I think a good leader can see the team and lead the team the way the team needs to be led, pursuant to things like empathy, results, you know, understanding, and drive. Like you have to drive a team. People don't normally do things without being driven.
How would you drive a team though if, say, it was a team of 5, 2 are in their 40s, some are in their 20s, some are really tough, some are really sensitive, completely diverse team?
Yeah, well, you have to look for items of synergy between all the people, right? Because there's a team culture, then there's a company culture. They're 2 different things. Like operations have a different culture to marketing, have a different culture to sales. So you have to find the commonalities within inside the team, right? So where does congruency happen and where does it meet? And it could be on 2 or 3 certain things. So you do that on a team orientation. And then if you were to manage that team more successfully, you do it on an individual basis. Like you sort of have to, because the 40-year-old just has more exposure than someone who's 22, right? You know what I mean? But when you put them together and you try to have a congruent conversation, the 40-year-old gets frustrated because they think they know it all because they've had more exposure, and the 22-year-old feels like they're not listening to them because they have low exposure. So it's ratios, right, for human beings. I think it's about psychology, actually. So you have to do it together, find congruent elements, use those as a team, and then break them up into individuals. And then the leaders just got to figure it out, right? And you could threaten them, and maybe that will work. I'm joking on the last thing. Don't do that.
Or do. Okay, this is like such a cliche question, but I don't think I know the answer.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 5 years' time?
It's such a cliche question. Would I want to be in 5 years' time in a completely different space I am right now? I don't want to be working in the business in 5 years' time at all. I want someone else to be running it. So I'm working on establishing that group of people now. I want to be heavily invested in exponential technologies because I find it super fascinating and super interesting. Because I want to focus on investments in blockchain and other things, right? And AI, I'm super interested in AI. Longevity's super interesting to me. So I want to do all these things. Anyway, so I want to go and do that and somehow tie it back to the company to help the company grow. So that's my biggest goal at the moment. And a whole bunch of other stuff. I don't know. People always ask me that question, and I don't really know how to answer it because I can see the future, but I focus on what's in front of me. And sometimes what's in front of me will dictate where that goes. So I don't lock myself into it, because if I do that and it doesn't pan out that way, that expectation creates stress and anxiety and frustration. And I don't like stress, anxiety, and frustration, and I think that comes from poor expectation or high elevated expectations that are not in alignment with how the world works. Oh shit, I want to do this, and then something comes and hits you, and then you have to go over here, and that doesn't happen. Well, then people just get all stressed out about it. So I find it difficult to answer that question. Like, as long as I'm healthy, the kids are good, I'm having fun, I'm sort of good, man. I don't really have, I don't need to drive the Lamborghini or have the fancy house, man. I don't need that bullshit. I'd rather have my mindset and my biology on point than any of that stuff. So I don't need it. So I'm always pretty good. I wake up happy every day. And I'm really super funny. So, it just sort of ties in well.
Okay, last question. If you found out the world was ending in 1 year, how would you spend your time?
Trying to figure out how to stop that from happening. That would be my answer to that. I have this dream. And I had it more than once, and it was sort of the same dream. So we're in this tower, right? And downstairs is all these cafes. So I was at the cafe ordering a coffee. Bear with me. There's a reason why I'm telling you the story. And as I'm standing there ordering a coffee, my daughter's with me. And then a terrorist walks in with a rifle and starts shooting people, right? Everybody drops to the ground and runs away, right? I turn around and run towards the sound of gunfire, right? And there's a lesson in that. And I'm a little bit like that. That's why I say we're trying to figure out how to stop that from happening. Is because, and Navy SEALs are trained this way too, by the way. Navy SEALs are actually trained to run towards the sound of gunfire, where the general public run away from it. And they're trained to do that because that's where the information is, right? Like, you only know what's going wrong if you find out where the gunfire is coming from and what's happening. That's the only way that you could overcome it, right? So anyway, I run towards the sound of gunfire. I disarm the guy, right? I put him on the ground, and then I shoot him in the kneecaps so he can't stand up, right? And then I take the magazine out and then put the rifle on the cafe counter. And then I get a chair and I put it over his neck and I sit on top of it. then the dream ends, and I had that same dream twice, right? And then I think I have that dream because I want to win, and if I find someone telling me that I can't do something, that sort of pisses me off a little bit. So I try and figure out a way to prove them wrong. So if the world was ending, I wouldn't actually accept that, and I don't think I would. You know, most people say to you, "Oh, I'll probably just get all my money and have a great time." I probably wouldn't do that. I'd do the opposite to that. I wouldn't get all my money and have a good time. I'd try and figure out how I can work through it. It's like if there was an asteroid running towards the Earth, some people would go up to the roof and party, and it was going to kill everyone in 24 hours. Someone would just get a whole bunch of alcohol and get completely shit-faced and die. I would be the opposite to that person. I would be trying to find the deepest cave on the planet, get to it, so I would survive. So that's sort of how I think. And I've always thought like that. It's like the guy at the cafe, man, I'm going to shoot you in the kneecaps. You know what I mean? I will not run away from that, even if I die. You know, people die. Let's get over it. You know, I'll be dead. Who cares? And the thing about legacy with that type of question is that there is no legacy. Like, legacy is a good concept. Like, hey, I want to leave my kids this and blah, blah, blah. I think that's great. I used to think like that. I've changed my focus on that, is that when you die, people are going to remember you for a split second and then it's gone. If you're super famous, they might remember you for 24 to 48 hours because it'll be in the news feed. And then after that, it's over. Like, you'll just fade away. And that's what life is, right? Like, your direct family will remember you, but no one else will. Like, when did David Bowie die? You know what I mean? Like, that guy was super famous. And no one will ever really talk about that. It'll be very, very rare. Barack Obama, the President of the United States, will die. And we will mourn his death from a distance for 5 days, and after that, we will never talk about it again. So legacy doesn't exist. It exists financially through securities, but it doesn't exist emotionally. So that's how I see that type of question. You know what I mean? I'm all in. I go, fuck it. Let's see if we can change that.
What happens to your daughter in the dream? She survive or?
No, she's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's fine. She's just sitting there drinking her latte going, oh, fucking hell, that's typical. But the other part to that dream is that someone filmed it on an iPhone and I ended up on some news show getting interviewed about it. Yeah, I did. And they asked me a question. They said, you know, why would you be so crazy to do something like that? I said, well, every father will know is that if your children are in danger, you'll do things that you would never do in real life. And that was the response to that question. And then that's sort of the end of the dream. But, yeah. He didn't kill anyone. He missed a whole bunch of people. No one died. Yeah, so it was a good outcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Look, we hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we enjoyed putting it together for you. If you like what you heard today and want to be part of our growing community, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing not only gives you automatic updates for new episodes, but also access to other cool stuff, soon to be released books, courses, and more. Your engagement truly makes a difference, and we sincerely appreciate it.